Most people wait till winter to prune their fruit trees, but pruning at the end of spring and the start of summer can actually give you a head start on next season, and I like a head start. So we're going to be doing a bit of pruning in the garden today, and I will show you what and why. So this plant here, this is one of my shade trees. This is a native Hakea, and it's grown really quickly and really vigorously. And that's the beauty of growing these natives, is because they grow so well in the crappy soil and hot climate. I'm going to prune off some of these lower limbs, clean up the trunk, and then prune off these about halfway to encourage branching so I can get more of a canopy to give dappled light to the garden. I don't want to prune too much because we are coming into summer and I want as much shade as possible, but I think this will grow really quickly and it's already branching off. So by just cutting the main shoot, these will all branch off fairly quickly. Then I'm going to go ahead and prune off any of the ones that are growing into this plum because I don't want them rubbing on the plum. We get a lot of wind in summer, and so I do like to do a little bit of pruning to manage anything that could whip and damage the plum. Some of these inward ones can come out. Alright, so there we are. I've just basically taken the tip off all of that to give it a nice even shape, and now it can branch out and create a bigger canopy to get more shade, and then nothing is going to be rubbing and smacking on that plum tree. All of this I'm just going to chop and drop and put it back into the garden as mulch. It's nice and small, so don't need to run it through the chipper. I'm just going to put it in there. This is a different type of Hakea, and again, this one I'm going to do basically the same thing. I've already pruned most of the lower limbs, so it's got a nice clean trunk, but we'll just do a few more. And then I'm just going to tip prune it to encourage branching off and get a nicer bushy plant. And this one that's growing out towards the driveway, I'm just going to cut that off. This one has a bit of a weeping shape to it. And again, anything that's going to smack into any of the fruit trees nearby, I'll prune that off, like this one here. This Hakea has seed pods from last year's flowers, and they've started to split open and the seeds are coming out. That's pretty exciting. Right, so next up we have some stone fruit. Now this is a plum, it's got an apricot grafted on it as well. And so I want to make sure that this apricot doesn't get lost in all of this new growth. Now I have this trained as sort of a spalier. It's really a flat, well it was until all of this new growth here, because I don't want this growing out into the driveway. Some of this is really vigorous growing and probably slowing down a lot of the other growth that I want. So I'm going to come in and prune this off. Like this branch is just crossing over everything. I'm not going to keep it, so there's no point waiting till winter to cut that off. I know I don't want it, so I'm going to cut it off. It's come all the way from around the back here. So by cutting all these ones off that I know I don't want to keep now, that are crossing over, that are growing in the wrong direction, that's going to put the energy into branches that I do want. And because it's early in the season and they're still putting on growth, that's how you can get a head start. So wherever I make cuts, I'm going to allow growth to go other places, or I'm going to, if I was to cut something here, this would branch off and I'd be able to get more branches now rather than having to wait till winter and spring next year. So that's a little bit of a hack to get ahead. Now this one is growing just underneath my apricot graft and I don't want this one to steal all the energy, so I'm going to cut that off and allow that energy to go up here to this apricot. Now this one, I don't actually mind. I might keep that, but I do want it to branch out earlier so it's not this big lanky thing. So I'm gonna actually prune it where I want it to branch out, and I'll prune it just above an outward facing bud. So if I was to prune it here and the bud is on the inside, the branch is going to come out and grow inward. And I don't want that. I want it to grow out this way, so I'm going to prune it. So the last bud on the top is an outward facing bud. And that one there looks like a good one. So then that's going to grow out here and keep me with this flat looking structure here. And I'm just going to chop this up and use it for mulch. It's important to prune young fruit trees to start them off the right way. And because I planted these mangoes sort of near the start of winter, it wasn't a good time to prune them because mangoes have their growth rate in the spring and summer, in the warmer months. They are tropical loving fruit trees. So I didn't want to do any cuts in winter or close to winter that could cause any bacteria or any diseases. So I've just left them as I bought them, which is super long and leggy. And this would become the whole trunk. And growing in a small space, I don't want to have a 1.5 metre long trunk before my tree even starts. So I do want to prune them back and bring the trunk down a lot lower. So this is where the graft is, so I can't go any lower than that because that is the rootstock, and this is the actual variety, which is, let's see, a sweet tart mango. So I have waited for the weather to warm up, and I know that it's a good time because I can start to see little buds starting to come out. Up the top here, there's some new growth. So I know the growth hormone is going up the plant. So as soon as I cut it, it's going to branch out wherever I have cut it. Now I have got a shoot coming out down the bottom here, and this is just below the graft, so I want to remove that because that is going to be the rootstock and I don't want that to take over the tree. There's the graft there, there's a little V cut in it, and that is rootstock. So we're going to cut that right at the base. Now where I cut it on this long leggy stick is I'm going to cut it, so there's the graft, there's a growth ring there, and there's another growth ring. You can tell the growth rings because they have little nodules around them, which is where the leaves used to be or where the branches will come out of. And that's what that is. So that is a growth nodule there where it's got all the leaves coming out. There's one there, one there, one there, one there. And you can see the little nodules where there's actually a few little green ones starting to pop out there, which is a good sign. So I want to cut it just below that because if I cut it just above, it'll all come out in a bunch like this and I'll have all these branches really close together. That's how far away the branches will be from each other, which is really close together. You know, 1, 2, very close together. So I'd like to have some where they're further apart, like there's one there, one there. So it is a little scary to cut, and I'd always start higher up if you are nervous because that way you've still got options to cut lower, but if you cut it right down here, you've only got this little bit, and if this doesn't grow, you're dead back to rootstock. So always giving it a little bit of extra length where I know shoots are going to come out of here, a sort of a backup plan. So I am going to cut it right here. So there's a nodule there, there's one in the way. So there's a nodule here, there's one on the side, and there's one here. So I'm going to cut it right there just above this nodule and just below this growth ring. And because this is a rare mango, I am going to use this to graft onto some of my seedling mangoes and see if I can get those to take. So I am going to put a little bit of a cover on this just to stop it drying out during the day, but I have chosen to do it in a cooler time. So this little mango down here has a pretty decent sized mango on it, and it's way too small to be holding fruit. So I'm going to be cutting that off. It's also being cut at the growth ring, so there's 3 branches really, really close together there, which is not really ideal. So I am tempted to cut that off as well. Sorry, little guy, maybe next year. Look at this little mango on a stick. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to cut it just under the growth ring. And now we've got one here. So I've got 2 at the top there, 1 on each side, and then there's some more further down. So hopefully some of these will shoot as well, and we can have a less clustered. See, that is just far too close together. I don't know if you can see. So there's 3 branches in here, and then those 3 branches were then going to branch off. So it was just going to be far too dense, and mango trees need good airflow, otherwise they get diseases. So this was not really going to work. So mango number 3 is also super leggy and long, but it has started to push new growth. So we've got new growth here, new growth pretty much all the way down, right even down here on the bottom. The graft is here, you can see that little V cut in there. So this is all growth above the graft, and I was going to cut it, but now I've got growth here all the way up. So this one here has like 5 branching out right at the spot. So this is going to have way too many branches clustered together. So I'm going to do the same thing and cut it just below there. These ones here are much better spaced out. So if I were to cut it off here, it would push these ones out, which are all in a better spot than having 5 branches coming out of there. And then we may still get some down here as well. It's important to check around all the sides because they can sort of hide where they are, but that one looks like the top one that I want to keep. So I'm going to cut it just there. It is scary to cut all the leaves off the new mango, and that is why I have waited to make sure that there is little signs of growth coming. So it's not just sitting dormant for too long, it is going to burst into new growth. Now, it is important that I don't go too hard on the pruning because I do want to capitalize on that shade for summer. So it is more of a light pruning, a specific pruning on things that are just growing too far left or right, or things that I want to branch out and create more branches, more shade, or more canopy. So this plum behind me has got a bit of new growth on it that are growing really far out the side. So I am going to go ahead and tip prune some of these, especially some of these long ones that are just shooting straight out. If I cut them now, I'm going to force them to branch out and create more side branches, which means more fruit lower down, which is what I want. And if I want to delete the whole branch, I just cut it as close to the trunk as possible. Most of this I am going to tidy up in winter because it will be deciduous, but if there's branches that I know, like this one, I would like it to shoot out this way more. So if I cut it, the dominant one off here, that's going to force that growth out that way. So I can sort of get a head start. I'm going to already have these branches coming through. All right, so I've got another mango in here that is trying to set some mangoes, and I really don't want it to, it's too young. So I'm going to prune that one off. It can be a good idea to wear gloves when pruning mangoes because the sap can give you sort of irritations on your skin. It's really sticky. Apricots are another one that I'm pruning because apricots are better to be pruned during the warmer months rather than in winter because they are really susceptible to disease. So I don't cut my apricots in winter when I prune a lot of my other stone fruit. I mainly do summer pruning. So now I've already cut them a few weeks ago and forced them to branch out, and I'll probably go through and do another prune just to try and keep them low because apricots are one that are a harder tree to keep small. So this one here I have already tip pruned, and now it's shot out 3 branches rather than having one shooting straight out. So that's how you can force growth now. Again, I tip pruned this one right there and it's shot out 1, 2, 3. And I may even tip that one again now because I do want to keep this nice and short and bushy. And I only did this a few weeks ago and it's already shot out all this new growth. So it's not a lot of fruit trees that I'm pruning. It's mainly just a few little bits here and there to try and get a head start or to force the growth. Things like my citrus and my feijoas, I'm not really pruning anything on those unless I can see certain branches that are just really growing off in a dominant direction. I'll prune those because I like to keep them all sort of the same height and shape. Now with all the fruit trees that we're pruning today, they've either finished fruiting or they were too young to be fruiting in the first place. So as a general rule, you want to prune fruit trees after they're finished fruiting. So I'm not going through and pruning trees that still have fruit on them, because this can cause stress and they can drop the fruit. So I've got a couple trees, I've got an apricot tree and a nectarine tree that I haven't finished picking the fruit on, but once I have, then I'll go through and do a prune on those. This is going to be the first video of my pruning series, so I'll put them together in a playlist so that you can watch what I'm pruning at different times of the year and how you can get a head start on growth and control fruit trees to keep them small and compact in an urban garden.